Gbàgede Ìmọ̀ TV níbi wọ́n ti ń dábìí ẹ̀dùn tí wọ́n ń rọ̀ bí òwú. Gbàgede Ìmọ̀ TV láti ń gbóhùn sáfẹ́fẹ́ láti ń dábìí ẹ̀dùn tá ń rọ̀ bí òwú. Gbàgede Ìmọ̀ TV, Gbàgede Ìmọ̀ TV, ọgbọ́n ń bẹ, òye ń bẹ, ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lóríṣiríṣi ní Gbàgede Ìmọ̀ TV.
Ẹ káàárọ̀, ẹ káàsán, ẹ kúrọ̀lẹ́, ẹ káalẹ́. Ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń lọ lẹ́tò tẹ́ ẹ Jasi o. Ètò ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń lọ ó náà la wà lórí ìkànnì BGI TV. Láti àná ó ní ẹ̀rín tí ń gbojú wa, lómijé ojú wa ti gbẹ, ló jẹ́ pé ẹ̀rín ló padà sí i. Afẹ́ o, akọ o, Ọlọ́run ọba òkùnkùn ṣe tí ó ṣe, bó ti wù kẹ́dà dígàgà tó, ẹni fọwọ́ dígàgà tó ní a má kọjá, Ọlọ́run á sì bẹ́gi dọ́wọ́ náà bó bá yá. Ìgbòho, Ọlọ́run ti ṣeun, Ìgbòho ti rẹ́yìn àwọn ọ̀tá ẹ̀, àti dúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Ọlọ́run. Yà lágbára Ọlọ́run lónìí.
It's unfortunate that we emphasized or we dwelt on the Emilokon line, forgetting the rest of the substantial content that was embedded in the 15-minute audio. Powerful. And if you ask me, I will say, by my reckoning, that is the greatest political speech by any Nigerian in history. Apologies to our political fathers, but you will soon understand why I have made such a claim. If you go to that Abeokuta declaration, because you asked if the ideology is the philosophy or is about personality, it is both. It's a fusion of both. Because the personality will the personality will lead us to what a man stands for, what are his ideals, what wakes him up at night, what are his goals, how does he think, what are his scope, what is the direction of his thoughts, and what does he live by. His personality is the spectrum of his philosophy. So that said, let us cast back our mind to the Abeokuta declaration. And there you will see that the first thing Asiwaju pointed to in that declaration is his reference for priorities. And I will quote him, and then I assume that will revive our memory of that address. He said, "Afe Shengba Buhari wá bá mi pé òun jáde pẹ̀lú ọ̀kadìgbò, flamboyant, fàájì loving, Catholic, wọ́n dìbò fóun. Òun tún jáde pẹ̀lú Umezuroke, wọ́n dìbò fóun. Òun wá rí pé tóun bá lọ gbé Pope wá láti Rome, wọ́n ní dìbò fóun. Bọ̀ Aṣíwájú, ìwọ ní gómìnà mẹ́fà, ó lose election rí. Let us contest. Let us to go with him based on his records of opposition management. But Asiwaju's response, according to that declaration, is that ti dìbẹ̀yìn tẹ́ jẹ́ ká tó ẹgbẹ́ ìjọ́nà, meaning pé Asiwaju, by the way he thinks, he pays preference for priorities. He has his ambitions quite all right. There are people who have argued that that ambition of becoming president has been with him since the time he was governor, which suggests to the fact that despite the presence of that ambition, he recognized that the first thing to do before anybody can pursue their individual goals is to ensure that the vehicle with which they will pursue that goal is adequately prepared. What do we have today amongst our leaders and politicians? For their personal ambition, they can sacrifice even the gods. They can gamble with the heavens. And that is why we see them jockeying from one party to the other, because it is wherever they think they can nurse their ambition. So Asiwaju's first ideology is the preference for priority. He has a very peculiar focus that he knows his destination as well as the direction to get there. And from that declaration, that was confirmed in very unambiguous terms. However, the second one would be his personal sacrifice for the greater good. His personal sacrifice, and that was expressive in when. By the way, I don't know if you know your X space is down. I'm getting
Yeah,
messages that
it's
it's
back
down.
up now.
All right.
It's back
He
up.
said, Saraki, àwọn Saraki rí pé Buhari ò lè jẹ́ Muslim president, kóhun Muslim jẹ́ vice president. Àwọn PDP ò tún lè rí president as senate, ò tún lè rí Muslim as senate president. Therefore, bó ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ campaign máa dàrú nìyẹn. In the bid to ensure that kẹgbẹ́ yẹn má bàjẹ́, I'm quoting him now verbatim, kó má dàrú, mo surrender right mi fún yín. He sacrificed his own right. It wasn't a slot. It was a right, because two major political figures came from both ends of the nation, one from the north, one from the south, to form an alliance, and both of them has got equal rights on that ticket. If Buhari will be president, Tinubu can as well be vice president. It won't matter if Evans will fall. However, corroborating my first point of preference for priorities, is personal sacrifice. That's all right. Beyond the fact that he had said, let us first build this vehicle, he was not also shy of saying, okay, I can even let down my ambitions for now. If my ambitions will mean that the greater good will be sacrificed, if my ambitions will mean that, because what would have happened if he insisted to be vice president? Maybe a fraction of that newly formed opposition will break out. Maybe their chances at the general election in 2015 will be impugned and will be affected. Maybe they may not even end up winning that election for one man's personal ambition. And if you trace that back to what happened to PDP in 2023, you see that for a man's personal ambition and lack of sacrifice, an entire movement can collapse. And that is what we saw with many of the opposition leaders. So, speaking of the ideology, in that Abeokuta declaration, it was clear that added to his preference for priorities, he has also got an affinity for personal sacrifice. It doesn't cost him so much. It doesn't cost him so much thinking. If it means that his own ambition would affect others. And that brings us back to 2007. After he has completed his tenure as governor. He was going to go to Abuja to be senator. He has bought the ticket even, so we heard. And then he reflected, saying, a nascent opposition party that is heavily being contested by the behemoth PDP. Then PDP was a performance, so to speak. Should I leave Lagos in the hands of Fashola, who is more of an administrator than a politician? Fashola may deliver all the deliverables as far as governance and administration is concerned, but can he navigate these murky waters of politics? Maybe, maybe not. But it's most likely going to be maybe not. And should he then say, because he also wanted federal exposure, national exposure, he must become senator at that point? Lagos could have followed in the hands of the sharks. Thereby, the kind of traction the AAC at the time got, he could have lost it forever. Speaking to personal sacrifice, and without sacrifice, a leader do not possess that necessary quality. He's not even worthy of followership, because a leader is not one who thinks only of himself, should be one who also thinks for the greater good. In fact, a leader must place the greater good over and above his own personal ambitions. That is the second principle, philosophy, which Ashwaju lived by, and one which he declared in Abeokuta. Three, you will see the undying Yoruba creed, since Awolowo, which this group revere. and which every Yoruba son must acknowledge, even almost to the point of worship, is our, is more or less a deity. If Awolowo had existed in the days of our Orishas, today he will be one of their Kunlebos to speak that he was larger than life. However, since Awolowo, we have not had a leader in the Yoruba creed that has taken the, that has so much imbibed the Yoruba interests and promoted it and saw the advancement of the Yoruba race, particularly in this political sphere, as a priority. In that declaration, Asiwaju said, when he mentioned his sacrifice as to his vice presidential right, he said, kó má dàrú, kó má bàjẹ́, orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá tẹ̀lé gòkè, káwa náà tẹ̀lé lẹ́nu ń bẹ̀. At that point, you will recall, we are talking of 2015 here, when the 6 principal officers of this country, the 6 political office holders, the top 6, none of them was Yoruba. We had the president from South, Jonathan. We had the vice president, Namadi Sambu, from Northwest, Kaduna. We had the Senate president, David Mark, from Benue, North Central. We had the deputy Senate president, Ike Ekuremadu, from the Southeast. We had Aminu Tambuwa, from the Northwest, Sokoto. And then we had Emeka Iyediowa. And that's 2 slots from the Southeast, yet there was no Yoruba in the top 6. So there was a context to it saying, look, Yoruba was sidelined entirely for the 5-6 years Jonathan ruled. Yoruba had no say. We were relegated to the background. Therefore, my vice presidential rights, I will sacrifice it, particularly so Yoruba can have a say. Should this ticket go ahead to win the presidency, which he went, which he did. That was why the 3 people he nominated were all Yorubas. He said it could have been Yemi Cardoso, Wale Edun, or Yemi Osinbajo. But he said, orúkọ mẹ́ta lẹ́nu ẹ mú wá, tí bá fún yín lórúkọ mẹ́ta mo ṣílẹ̀kùn fólè nìyẹn, ẹ lè fi kan kún kẹ wá mú kẹrin yẹn, ẹyọ kan ni máa fún yín, Yemi Osinbajo. And that was how Yemi became the vice president. He was a Yoruba man. And you saw that in that government, as much as we may have our complaints, the Yorubas, at least by the virtue of being number 2, we will say he fought for that right to be. You know, we once had a Yoruba man as president. And, it's not the topic for today. So we cannot deny Asiwaju's Yoruba creed. It's undeniable, it's uncontestable, it's indisputable. He has and has always had the Yoruba's advancement as a core of his mandate. And that forms one of his ideology. Therefore, we have a strategy of influence. You see, since Awolowo, where we saw him build followers into leaders, the Bola Iges of this world, the Olabisi Onabanjos of this world, the Olusegun Oshoba of this world, the Abraham Adesanya of this world, the Alfred, many of them, the list is almost endless. Again, there has been a lacuna, a gap between that generation to this generation, where we no longer had a Yoruba man. Since the demise of Awolowo, we no longer had anybody to fill in that gap, where every Yoruba can see as their anchor, as the beacon, where we can be sure that with this man there, our interest is covered. We did not have, because we did not have natural leaders. We had politicians, quite all right. In fact, we had people that occupied political offices, but we didn't have a natural leader, because leaders are those that build other leaders. It's not enough to say you have 1 or 2 people behind you following you. How much influence have you had in their growth and the advancement of their ambitions? Asiwaju is the only leader I know that has promoted the ambitions of his followers over and beyond to positions he himself hadn't occupied at the time. His followers, courtesy Asiwaju, had occupied positions that were higher than Asiwaju's highest post before he became president. We spoke about Osinbajo. He became vice president. Asiwaju was never vice president. Aregbesola became minister. Asiwaju was never minister. Gbajabiamila became speaker. Asiwaju was a lawmaker, but he never became a principal officer. He pursued the ambition of his followers. And you knew that in 2007, many of the states in the Southwest lost their elections, or their mandates were robbed. We had Osinbajo give that testimony in one of his colloquiums, where it took Asiwaju to travel leaps and bounds beyond the mountains and across the oceans to ensure that those mandates were restored. Yeah. And he gave it to them. Speaking of his strategy of influence and mentorship, no other leader across the race had that kind of ideology. The last time we had those kind of leaders were in the First Republic, when we had an Ahmadu Bello that could willingly surrender his prime ministerial slot to Tafawa Balewa, his mentee, saying, look, I am contented with being Premier of Northern Region. I have an agenda for the North, and that agenda cannot be fully facilitated or cannot be fully advanced in Lagos. I have to be close to home. And then he nominated Tafawa Balewa. You know, we had Awolowo. Of course, we've mentioned that. But since the First Republic, we've always had political office holder that advanced their own ambitions and theirs alone. They were contented with having followers that will follow them forever. If so be, they could also enlist their children to continue the followership. So there's no ideology that is greater in the list I've mentioned now than that strategy of influence, because that is how you build societies. Where, for example, even in the Bible, we had Moses that paved way for Joshua. We had an Elijah that paved way for an Elisha. If there was no Moses, Joshua could still have taken the people of Israel to Canaan. However, he may also have cost him 40 years in the wilderness doing nothing. Somebody had walked through the wilderness, so Joshua taking over had an easier journey. Elijah, without Elijah, Elisha may also have performed those signs and wonders. However, without the mantle of double portion, he may not have had 14 notable signs and wonders, double of what Elijah had. The job of a mentor is to ensure that the road is easy. We have children, we are parents, and our ultimate objective is to ensure that even though we may have gone to school in our time barefoot, even though we may have gone to school carrying benches and desks on our heads, we want our children to go by school bus. We want our children to learn in AC. Are we there?
You're back. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
All right. So, I speak to mentorship.
Boy, thank you so much. Bá ṣe máa ń sọ ní gbogbo ìgbà, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ó ṣe pàtàkì. Gbogbo nǹkan tá a bá fẹ́ ṣe, ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ronú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá lákọ̀ọ́kọ́. A fẹ́ gbàyàn síṣẹ́ ni, a fẹ́ láya ni, a fẹ́ lọ́kọ ni. Ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ronú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá o. Àwọn ọmọ tí a ti bí, ẹ má jẹ́ kí wọ́n dé kó wá jẹ́ pé ọ̀rọ̀ burúkú náà máa sọ sí wa pé báwo wá làwọn bàbá wa ṣe ṣe, báwo lẹ ṣe ṣe, ìfìwádìí pé ọwọ́ ń ṣerú ẹgbẹ́ wọn, àbí wọ́n ń ṣe ní orílẹ̀ bàbá wọn, wọ́n wá di àjòjì, wọ́n di ọmọ ẹlẹ́ran tó ń jẹ egungun. So as usual, please, let's think Yoruba first. In anything we are doing, ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ronú pé ilẹ̀ yẹn ó ṣe kókó, ó ṣe pàtàkì o.
Oh, you are Yoruba, but you are different. But within the politics of Nigeria, where we practice geopolitics, it is extremely dangerous for us not to be intentional about our interests and our ideology. So we are so grateful, Honorable Legendary Joe. May Olodumare continue to empower you. One day I pray you are going to be maybe the governor of Ogun State or the governor of Ijebu State. I really wish you to go all the way, because when many of us came to the space, to social media space, we felt that we've given up, because we see people who call themselves APC stanship. It is almost impossible for us to go to their space to even listen to them for 5 minutes. I am sorry I have to say this. People could pay money to go and listen to people could pay money to go and listen to Chief Obafemi Awolowo speak. People could pay money to go and listen to Ladoke Akintola speak. People could pay money to go and listen to Chief Bola Ige speak. People could pay money to go and listen to Baba Olawoyan from Ofa speak. I'm sorry to say this. How many of our politicians can people even, apart from the fact that people collect money from them, how many of our politicians can people pay money to listen to? And you said something that it was Baba Jagaban. I used to say Mr. Bakari, that's our Jagaban of TYF, that he was your first subscriber. You know, how many people that are within the political stanship, with the political young aspiring politician, can people of Yoruba origin, can I take my $1 and go and subscribe to currently within the space of Nigeria? I'm sorry, I don't think, apart from 1 or 2, 3, which you are part of, I don't think it's not about bread, but it's because of there's a problem within the land. Because of 2 things: the best brains are not participating in politics, they've left it, and 2, the silence of the majority. The silence of the majority, because maybe I know you've met a lot of bright people that are also within your cycle. They need to start speaking up. We need to see a lot of Legendary Joe, please. Before you continue, we beg, they need to start coming up and say, even though we are within politics, we are politicians full blown, we are still not going to destroy the foundations of our forefathers. So we are so grateful to have you. And tonight, please, I know unfortunately a lot of issues have happened that you are passing through, but please, we want you to continue the fireworks. I love the way you are telling us about the evolution, because where you stopped was the evolution of Tinubu, from the Tinubu of Lagos to the Jagaban of Nigeria. That was the evolution. So we would like you to continue, so that we can all continue to drink from your water of not just of pencilmint and also a wordsmith. You're also an orator, so not that you're also good with writing. We can see that. Baba Jagaban, ẹ ṣé o, ẹ kú àdúrótímú o. Madam, Mama Ajoke, Eshe, thank you so much. To all our listeners, please invite your friends and family. This is our village meeting. This is the Yoruba village meeting every Saturday, where we discuss Yoruba geopolitics and Yoruba history, where we bring the young, the old, the past, and the present, where we sharpen our minds. All wars are fought and won in the mind. Once the war of the mind is over, we've lost the war. That's why many of us are speaking against any form of extremism, religious-wise, ethnic-wise, tribal-wise within Yoruba land, because we do not want to be made as scapegoats. We do not want to be seen as part of the problem of the world, because the world is changing. Thank you so much. Eshe púpọ̀ o. I will be listening now while I also get my pen and paper to drink from your well of wisdom. Legendary Joe. Eshe púpọ̀.
Yeah, Legendary Joe, yeah, thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you very much. Ẹ ti sọ̀rọ̀ nípa àwọn topics, àwọn some deep, like I said, doctrines, right? Arena is talking, you use the Bible even to buttress your point. Are too is trying to speak prophetically to you becoming a governor in Ogun State tomorrow. Our no, oníṣẹ̀ṣe, gbogbo ẹ̀ àfàṣẹ sí kí Elédùà kó bá àfàṣẹ sí kó lè gbà wọlé sí ìtẹ́ Olódùmarè. Thank you very much, Mr. Joe. There's something you said as that really, you said mentorship is to make sure that the road is easy for your followers. And you've given us some examples of how candidate Tinubu, before he became president, he did not start this today. He has been building this followership for decades. And we've seen that these same people are the ones that were with him when it was rough. They were with him when he became governor. Like, for example, we have today our current IG, right? Even the predecessor who left. These were people that have been with him. I saw a picture this week, somebody put on social media, was like, wow. We're born today, this boy back boy income by now, So President Tinubu or candidate Tinubu has been doing this for a long time. How can our youth learn to imbibe this?
Thank you, Jagaba. Thank you, Are, for the good, kind words. And the Mandali House, Madam Ajoke, thank you so much. And good words as well. Now, I will wrap on the fourth point, which I told you, because it will help with the next question. I was speaking on, you see from the Abeokuta declaration where he said, that's where he referred to my governor as Eyin. Eyin to draw to what saw. Only that the governor like shame. Ọjọ́ wà ní stadium kan ni gbogbo ìyàtọ̀ fẹ́ gbé fún èmi tí mo gbé fún rẹ̀. It sometimes he has it easy, sometimes he has to fight his proteges against all odds, get their mentorship. Now the fifth one for me is important. That influence, if you like, what conveniently called godfatherism, because every leader wants to be godfather, but when it doesn't work for them, then godfatherism becomes, every leader we've had has always to also install a successor. But once they are wherever they're in the political acumen and the natural leadership to see that through, then godfatherism becomes a vice. Sure, godfatherism is non-transactional. I've also believed when I was too much younger, saying there's no way Ashwaju could be expending his resources, making people qualified, but since they have schooled school of discipleship, discipleship, he has his own resources. I have assumed conveniently so, and that is that somehow when those guys attend or assume office, they will pay kickbacks, they will have to make returns if Ashwaju is due financially. That is a logical explanation. Does it recoup investments? However, in 2022, the general election, Professor Adeyeye, then senator, who was speaking on the side of Yemi Osinbajo, giving us a background. He was on Edmond Obilo show, and he was giving us his understanding of what the genesis and how it metamorphosed to what at the time. And he said, given the background, decision to let and Aregbesola in trying to confirm if that was indeed the body law. He asked for confirmation, saying, look, we had yours governor. And Aregbesola, by his mission, expressed to us by Professor Adeyeye, who was speaking on behalf of Osinbajo, so he was in admiration. He said what was for the 8 years we have, what have I ever demanded from you? Okay, I'm asking this for the first time. support Oyetola, and that was the request Asiwaju made in his 8 years of being governor of Osun State. And that had been corroborated by Ajimobi of blessed memory, where Ajimobi said right there at the rally at the stadium, it wasn't a, where he said when you aspire to be governor, many parties approached him and they were coming with demands, coming with terms. Some of them 40% of security votes, so 50% of the allocation. Some of them will have this in it. And then Ajimobi being the egotistic man we know him to be, wasn't going to accept such conditions. It's either he's governor with full powers or he's nothing. And he said Asiwaju approached, and then we'll support you. When Asiwaju said we'll support you, he was expecting that, then what are your demands? He didn't get those demands. He went ahead to win the election, courtesy Asiwaju's support, still waiting for demands. He said he waited for 8 years, and anytime he assumed he has finally called to make his demands, but he didn't. In that declaration, Asiwaju confirmed, and the video had been there for 3 years. If there were lies in it, they would have contradicted it. Where he said, "Àtijọ́ tó dẹ̀ ti dé, mi ò gba minister, mi ò gba contract, mi ò tọrọ gàrí, mi ò dẹ̀ yáwó ń bẹ̀." Back to how heated the 2022 election was. Anything to use against Asiwaju that was available was used. Everything, including his medical, the assumptions around his medical history, education, and whatever. If they had information as to him receiving kickbacks, he could have used it. So it's not common here. We are witnesses of the corporate, and we see godfathers battle their gods just purely on economic reasons. That's not Asiwaju, and that's an ideology we all must come to. This man is special. And I believe he took that from Awolowo, because Awolowo too will put leaders there, not because he wanted them to offer returns. On those 5 pillars, the declaration has clearly proven to us that we have in Asiwaju not just the who knows all the tricks to advance his own ambitions, but also that who is interested in the advancement of the Yoruba creed, and also in the promotion of his followers' aspirations. So saying, what can the youth learn from this? A preacher said, Pastor Isaac Omole, he said, the signs and wonders, the kinds of demons and vices, demonic vices, the likes of Babalola are to confront. If they are confronting the demons of today, they wouldn't have performed so well. Adopting that ideology, if I would insisted, this heavily ignorant generation of us, he might have succeeded, but he would have had more challenge. We had a generation of youth that are desperately allergic to information. They are more like consistently very deliberate that enlightenment does not really abide in them. So much that what we engage ourselves in, I made reference to the Abeokuta Declaration, of what was said and what we could pick from it. The things our young ones were able to pick is a Milokop. How dare he say a Milokop, even within the context with which Asiwaju mentioned the phrase. Are had said they did this because they wanted easy acceptance, a certain demography. We lack self-esteem. We are a generation with very, very endemic inferiority complex. We try almost to the point of deriving excitement and extreme derision from ignorance. So much that of trying to be intellectual or sound logical. Groups like this, TYF, we need more groups, or maybe we need more support for the group to enlist many more of us, the young ones. We can get them affiliated, at least get them a little familiar with our history. Know that we are a race of giants. You know, what we see to it, people will say are the great being Yoruba, or these are people that profess to be Yorubas. Yoruba is always they have labeled the Yoruba Ronu Yoruba Ronu appendage. They have labeled it as a cult. Some labeled it as a cake. Some label it as anti-progress. And the context between the Yoruba Ronu was first used before, which was at that Obisheson Hall in Ibadan. Within our own context, it has nothing to do with other tribe or ethnicity. It was us within the Western region political crisis at the time, calling us to reflection, saying, look, we have to come together as a united front to ensure that we have is formidable to compete with other zones. But now, when it is convenient, they say, okay, it is a tribal, it is a nomenclature for bigotry. So if our youth will learn anything from Ashwaju's ideology, they must first admit that they have misjudged the man, because you cannot learn, you cannot fetch from a stream you have labeled dirty. They have misjudged the man in their haste to sound politically correct. They have crucified the man among where they have amongst them of political leaders of our time to compete with any era. They have submitted him jokers of other zones who cannot even produce. So first, it's time for self-reflection before they can even learn anything. Our job is to put it out there. Let us see that they have learned it.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very, very much. You have downloaded a lot. One thing I have just picked up again, you said we have in quote, we have a youth in this generation who are deliberately allergic to information. End of quote. Deliberately. People you just deliberately say, I don't want to hear the truth. It is just what I have in my mind. And what you have in your mind is not, look, I think I will just want to ask again, like, how many youths in our time now understand simple budgets, policies, and governance frameworks? You see, this is the problem we have. Meanwhile, there was a time in Yoruba land where people talk of, intellectualism, yeah, right? People sit down and talk intelligently. We challenge ourselves. We bring out research. Before we sit down to talk, everybody has gone to do a research on the particular subject. Even more than the particular subject itself, you try to look outside the box, think outside the box, research further than what we agreed to talk about, so that you can bring something in. I remember when we were in school those days, there's a particular lady who said she was telling a guy, said, do you know why I love you? And the guy said, no. He says, because when your mates are talking, you don't talk like somebody who doesn't know what to say. You always come to the table with information. And that's why I just like you. How many of our youth these days has all this? Even with the fact that it's so easier for somebody to just say, hey, Grok, is this true? I mean, the world has become so easier to get information, right? Even if the information is wrong, you can easily say, oh, Grok, but you once said it's like this, then Grok will correct itself. But just type, we have ChatGPT, we have all this Gemini, you can just quickly ask a question, but our youths are very, very, your words, in quote, deliberately allergic to information. Or will I say again that they're deliberately allergic to the truth? They don't want to accept the truth. They just feel like what I know is okay. It's either you accept it or you leave it. Madam Ajokade, do you have anything to say before Big Joe will continue to the next question I'm going to put you in?
I actually have a question for Big Joe.
Okay.
And my question would be, how did our youth get to that point of being deliberate? Of,
Oh, sorry, we missed out that question. Can you come up again with the question?
I mean, how do we come to that point that our youth, me, I'll prefer to say allergic. They are actually a lot of our, though they were changing. There is a change now. I think after 2023 election, and I could say the saga that followed, the abuse, a lot of our youth, I mean, they realized, okay, something is not right here. I think a lot of our youth, we could see changes. They understand what is really happening. A lot of our youth do. I mean, we should actually probably applaud them for that. But nevertheless, how do we get to that? How do we get to that point that a lot of our youth are actually allergic to information, or maybe allergic to the truth?
Yeah, Big Joe.
I lost part of your question.
Okay, my question is, how do we get to that point that our youth, they are kind of allergic to information or allergic to the truth, that they are intentionally don't want to, I mean, get the right information?
Okay. You see, first of all, is this conversation going on YouTube?
Yeah, it is. It's live.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to put things in the right context. When we say they are allergic to information, it's not to suggest that every Yoruba youth must support Ashwadi. That is not even who we are.
No. Yeah.
When Awolowo reigned, there were many in a Bomosho that chose to follow. And later, there were those that chose to follow Akintola. So we would never come to everybody would follow one person. However, if you were opposed, that it should be on the foundations of principle. It should be on the grounds of intellectual argument. That if Ashwaju is doing, for example, remove subsidy, and you disagree, it should be on the point that you have better solutions, you have better opinions, suggestions, you have a more improved version. But where you come with subsidy removal and you say you shouldn't have removed subsidy on the first day, it's fish. It's because it's refined Malta. It's because so we got to this point. First of all, I think we all have to be blamed because many times the best time to cut an Iroko is growing stage. Becomes monstrous, it will begin to demand sacrifice. In our homes, many of us do not want to raise our kids with our language. When we want to watch even our movies, even the ones that are children friendly, because it is based in the Yoruba language, we prefer to watch cartoons, we prefer to watch, they are more familiar with British and all, and then they are discovered. And these are the ones that are now parents. Children in their 20, 22, 25 years are now having children. Disconnected from that. Now, these things we say was a product of upbringing. We were familiar with listening to culturally rich music. We were raised by culturally rich movies. The Koshebes of this world, the Olekus of this world, subconsciously are imbibing and absorbing values. But now, the best our youth are exposed to on social media, particularly in this age of social media, nefarious and negative, deficient. Some countries today have sanitized environments. There are many countries where when you get to their country, what you have allowed to access is not what we allow anything here. In China, in Japan, in many countries that still consider morals and intellectual curiosity as values, they have made it a point of duty to ensure that their space, the young ones' spend time, is sanitized and properly regulated to ensure that they fetch values from that state. But we leave our children to then later blame them for not matching up with our expectations. So what will we do? We will regulation of social media. What we do is the deliberate and systemic sanitation of that hemisphere. What we gain current, what we gain traction will be information and enlightenment-based content and not, you know what we have there. So you cannot continuously pollute a complaint that is no longer drinkable. We are all at fault at it.
Yeah, sure. But how is it possible in Nigeria? Because we're talking about Yoruba youths now. And I'm kind of feeling your solution as a Nigerian youth, so to say, when it comes to the information sharing, censoring the what our youth are exposed to on internet. So how is it possible applying this to Yoruba youth? Because sometimes I feel as our youth have been corroded, not even only the youth. Yoruba generally, we have been corroded. Even sometimes we see, the adults, what comes out from their mouth sometimes, the way they reason, we could be like, into long, what is this? So how is it possible, to get this to Yoruba, this Yoruba-centric message?
That is why, again, we acknowledge a insight of establishing the development commissions. You know, there's a background to development commissions. I think it started in the 1970s. Development commissions was introduced by Gawan after the Biafra War. The commission then was, he called it 3 R's: reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reintegration, whereby the people of the Southeast on rebuilding of the Southeast. Then it came down to Ompadek in 1992. Then before it now became NEDC, NDDC, and now. And I've been having talks with our friends in the Development Commission because I have friends there. And I've encouraged them because they're mapping up their budgets and trying to see what policies they would introduce in their first year. And I have education in the zone. They must do it as because the mission is to bring us closer to what we had in the First Republic. That is what I could get from it. Okay. That each zone should have projects, should have initiatives that are specific, beneficial to their zones. We're going to invest in education, ensure that it's not just you come of building rooms and all. Let it be target specific, whereby, all right, we want to build systems. It could be technologically based, it could be based that is totally Yoruba-centric in values, even in the model of building it. Many of these countries have cited the WhatsApp, the social media platforms we use in the other world are not what they use there. It is locally built, it is locally grown. So our solutions will also be locally grown. We have amongst us tech experts, we can create that hemisphere. It's going to take time. But with the Development Commission, it can become a policy-backed initiative between the private things. We can such a way that we can remodel our education system, such that our history, the history that will be taught in our schools, the schools in the Southwest are purely or more preference in history. The roles our forebears played in the formation of what Yoruba-centered environment. So it's going to be collective, and it's also going to be government-backed. And we have an edge now that we have the bank commissions, Yorubas, obviously, and they speak our tongue, they speak our language. We can actually offer solutions. Groups like this. I spoke with Jagaban some months ago when we were trying to initiate a courtesy visit. Groups such as this must ensure that we work with ideas and say to this community that has the potential of promoting these values we are currently campaigning for, to be collective. But without that deliberate action, like many other countries we have seen, when Lee Kuan Yew was built in Singapore, the policies he introduced were totally, at the time, totally, we can use innovative if we're trying to speak about it in very positive terms. But what is appeared there was he ensured that he didn't only treat governance, he even treated the morals of the citizens. Allowed to drink, you are not allowed to smoke, you are not allowed to litter. In Japan, to matches after the football match, even when they lose the matches, they would still stay back to clear the stadium. In this place, our way to show Europeans or our way to show the Yorubas sometimes is in our rancorous, our subhuman of attitude. To answer you, we are one step ahead. It's now left to us to also assist them. They are begging for ideas now. Let us come up with models, supply to them, such that we can build another generation. Maybe we have lost these ones. Another generation that are knowledge seeking.
Okay, Joe.
Thank you so much. Eshegon. Thank you. But,
Thank you very much. Okay,
just to add to it, we've not lost them. We're going to grab them back. Thank you.
I share your opinion, Mama Anjoke.
Yeah, because there's a lot of change in our youth now comparing to 2023. After the election, we see a lot of changes on net. The understanding was then kind of coming in. They've changed. There's a lot of change, so we're not going to lose them. That rebuild is coming up. We're back. Thank you so much.
I agree with you. There are some elements of improvement. The percentage or the proportion is what we verify now.
Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you, Big Joe. While we're talking, we've had somebody who's this Yomite, a very regular listener. He's just saying happy posthumous birthday to Papa Awo, a visionary leader who pioneered the modern civilization of Yoruba land. And your very good friend says, good evening. I was looking forward to listening to legendary Joe tonight. Alas, network is just crazy, right? I have moved from X to YouTube. I'm now on Facebook. So we thank goodness that we're running on all these social media handles simultaneously. So thank you, Dolapo. Thank you very much. Now I'm sure you can listen to legendary Joe. And there's somebody here, Eke Queen. She's so happy with what you've said tonight, saying thanks very much for this sound intellectualism. Thank you very much. And we have other people too, that have said a lot of beautiful things about how much they were happy to listen to you, to have you get off the Twitter, cocoon that you've always been hiding behind behind Elon Musk, to come up to life, everybody see your face. Thank you very much, Big Joe. As we move forward.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, yeah, please, go ahead, please.
It's about me.
I
have a question today. There's a lot of questions on my mind.
Okay.
And it's also like one of my mentors used to say, there is more blessing in learning than in teaching. So it's a good opportunity for me to learn tonight. I have a question. Many young Yorubas have reached out to me for the past 4 years, since 2022. Thousands. They've listened to our message. Why ideologically driven, purposed, upright, always young element, firebrand, especially people between the age of 20, 30, and 40, must start participating in politics. The question they asked me is how? They said if they don't have any political godfather, they will not be able to access the political ladder. But I told them, I think we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
Maybe there was a call.
It should be like, yeah, it should be.
So there was a call. I think I also struggled with that. So a lot of calls was coming. Hopefully he's going to be back. Okay. So the question I wanted to ask him was,
okay,
how do young people can also get themselves within the political circle and be relevant? Because some people said they wanted to go and form their political party. Some people said they wanted to even go and register. There are millions of people that are registered for APC, but they are not politically relevant within the scheme of things. He works at the National Assembly. Maybe you could share nuggets with young people that are listening to us tonight who believe that the most legal way in order to be able to make positive impact within the Yoruba society within Nigeria is via the political route. So how can they go about it? We hope he's going to come back.
Yeah.
Because that question is extremely important. How can children of nobodies also start and become politically relevant? Because our politics has become elitist. Our politics have become money driven. If you are not a son of a billionaire, how do you go in primary to win even primary election? You are going to spend billions. You are not even. You've not become a governor. You spent on primary alone. You spent close to 10 billion naira. So when you now go and contest for governorship, that you are not even assured that you are going to win, you can't spend another 50 billion. So what about? So how do middle class people that are just brilliant? How are they going to get into power? Because I listened to him very well. He spoke about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was investing so much in his proteges, in his disciples, so they became governors. Yeah, it is true. And he wasn't collecting percentage like Baba Adedobu. May his soul rest in peace in Ibadan, where he was collecting. I think he was demanding for 15%. During the time he was fighting Baba
I saw one of the Baba video. I was like, wow.
Wow, yeah. He was saying it. Is it 15 or 35%?
Baba, I think almost 50. One video that I saw that Baba was saying, why not?
Why not? Money go from 35%, 1.15%. Irony. So we have to understand how do you that if you have great ideas, how do you get across? How do you get involved? Even you look at the advocacy that we are currently doing in Think Yoruba First organization. To run CYF, we know the millions every month. The millions that goes into running TYF. and we are still struggling to balance our book. Thank God for the help of many of our brothers and sisters. So now imagine you are in politics where you are going to where you are going to need structure, maintain structure, and even buy structures. Politics is very expensive. So how can Tinubu could do that because he has deep pockets.
Gbàgede ìmọ̀ TV níbi